In your pocket right now, there could be a Washington quarter worth thousands, hundreds of thousands, and even life-changing money. That ordinary 25-cent coin with George Washington's face might be hiding a rare minting error, a key date, or a silver composition that collectors are desperately searching for across America. From rare 1932 key dates to valuable silver quarters to shocking modern error coins still found in circulation, some Washington quarters have sold for life-changing money at auction. And the craziest part? Most people spend them without ever checking. In this video, I'm going to reveal the most valuable Washington quarters, the exact dates and features to look for, and how to tell if the quarter in your hand is a hidden treasure. If you love rare coins, valuable pocket change, and real hidden wealth stories, make sure you watch until the very end, because number one might completely surprise you. And before we begin, subscribe to Coin's Most Valuable and turn on notifications, because the next valuable coin could already be in your wallet. Coin number one. What if I told you that a simple 25-cent coin, a coin most Americans have spent without a second thought, has sold for more money than a luxury house? Not a gold coin. Not a rare colonial relic. A 1965 Washington quarter. The very first year America stopped putting silver in its quarters. The very year collectors once ignored. And today, that same 1965 Washington quarter-dollar coin is one of the most shocking hidden treasures in modern U.S. coin history. The 1965 Washington quarter was created during a time of crisis. In the early 1960s, silver prices were rising fast. Americans were hoarding silver coins. The U.S. Mint had to make a historic decision. In 1965, under the Coinage Act of 1965, the composition of the Washington quarter changed forever. Gone was the 90% silver that had been used since 1932. In its place came a copper core layered with nickel, what we now call clad coinage. The public didn't fully understand the impact at the time. But collectors today know that 1965 is one of the most important transition years in American coinage history. Because here's the truth most people don't realize: transition years create mistakes. And mistakes create massive value. The 1965 Washington quarter-dollar coin was produced in enormous numbers, over 1.8 billion coins struck. At first glance, that sounds like it should make the coin common and nearly worthless. And yes, in circulated condition, most 1965 quarters are worth face value. But this is where serious collectors pay attention. When a mint changes metal composition, production methods, and mintmark policies, all at once, the chances of rare errors increased dramatically. And 1965 had something unusual. That year, the U.S. Mint temporarily removed mint marks from coins. Whether struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, no mint mark appeared. This was done to discourage hoarding. But it also created mystery. Without mint marks, identifying production origins became harder. And when rare errors surfaced, they became even more intriguing. Now, let's talk about the design. The obverse of a 1965 Washington quarter still features the iconic portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. His left-facing profile is strong and detailed, with liberty above, "In God We Trust" to the left, and the date 1965 below. On the reverse, you see the powerful American eagle, with wings spread wide, clutching arrows and olive branches, symbolizing both strength and peace. United States of America arches above, with E pluribus unum and the denomination $quarter below. While the design remained the same, what changed underneath the metal is what makes this coin so historically important. Most 1965 quarters weigh 5.67 grams and have a copper-nickel clad composition. But here's where things become extremely interesting. A very small number of 1965 Washington quarters were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchets from 1964. Think about that for a moment. A silver quarter was not supposed to exist in 1965. Yet, a few slipped through during the transition. These rare silver error coins are dramatically more valuable than regular clad examples. Collectors can identify a possible silver 1965 quarter by checking the edge. A normal clad coin shows a visible copper stripe along the edge. A silver example does not. It appears solid silver all the way through. Weight is another clue. Silver quarters weigh slightly more, around 6.25 grams. These differences may seem small, but in the world of coin collecting, tiny details can mean massive money. And silver planchet errors are only the beginning. There are also double die varieties associated with 1965 quarters. A double die occurs when the die used to strike the coin has slight misalignment during its creation, causing noticeable doubling in letters or numbers. On some 1965 quarters, collectors have identified doubling in the date or inscriptions. While not all doubling commands huge premiums, strong examples in high grade can sell for significant amounts. Then there are off-center strikes, wrong planchet errors, and dramatic mint mistakes. When a 1965 Washington quarter is struck off-center, part of the design may be missing. If struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, its size and metal composition will be incorrect. These types of errors are rare and highly collectible, especially when authenticated and preserved in excellent condition. But condition matters just as much as rarity. Most 1965 quarters in circulation today are heavily worn. They've been in pockets, cash registers, vending machines, and coin jars for decades. But uncirculated examples, coins that were never used in everyday transactions, are much scarcer than people think. Because the public did not initially save 1965 quarters in large numbers the way they saved earlier silver coins. In high mint state grades, even normal-clad 1965 Washington quarters can sell for impressive premiums. Coins graded at the very top of the condition scale, with sharp strikes, full luster, and minimal contact marks, are incredibly difficult to find. The difference between an average uncirculated coin and a superb gem example can mean thousands of dollars. Another factor that makes the 1965 Washington quarter-dollar coin valuable is its historical importance. It represents the end of the silver era for everyday U.S. coinage. It marks the beginning of modern clad coinage that continues to this day. That alone gives it long-term collector interest. And here's what makes this even more exciting for everyday Americans. These coins are still found in circulation. Unlike many rare coins locked away in private collections, 1965 quarters still appear in pocket change, bank rolls, and coin jars across the country. That means the opportunity is real. The possibility is real. Someone watching this video could check their change tonight and discover something extraordinary. When evaluating a 1965 Washington quarter, you should carefully inspect the edge for silver appearance, weigh the coin if possible, look for doubling in the date and lettering, and examine the overall condition. Luster, strike sharpness, and the absence of heavy marks dramatically increase value. Even small details can separate an ordinary 25-cent coin from a collector's prize. Collectors also pay attention to strike quality. In 1965, production pressure was extremely high due to coin shortages. Dies were used longer than usual. That means weakly struck examples are common. A sharply struck 1965 quarter with crisp hair, detail on Washington, and strong feather definition on the eagle is much harder to find. Over the years, serious coin hunters have searched tirelessly for rare 1965 transitional silver errors. And when authenticated examples appear at major auctions, bidding can become fierce. Because these coins are not just errors, they are pieces of American monetary history that should not exist. The market for rare Washington quarters continues to grow as new collectors enter the hobby. Modern collectors appreciate coins that combine history, rarity, and dramatic stories. The 1965 Washington quarter checks all three boxes. It is a transitional year. It has confirmed high-value errors. And it still circulates in everyday life. And now here is the number that shocks most people. A rare 1965 Washington quarter struck on a silver planchet reached an astonishing highest recorded auction price of $297,000. Let that sink in. From 25 cents to nearly $300,000. That is why this coin is valuable. That is why you should never ignore a 1965 Washington quarter-dollar coin. Check the edge. Check the weight. Check the details. Because history has already proven that one small mistake at the mint can turn ordinary pocket change into a life-changing discovery. Coin number 2, a single quarter. For small letters, one tiny D mint mark, and a year that most people completely ignore, 1980. What if I told you that the 1980 D Washington $quarter coin has shocked collectors, broken auction records, and proven that even modern pocket change can hold extraordinary value? This is not a silver coin. This is not a colonial relic. This is a coin many Americans have spent at gas stations, grocery stores, and vending machines. Yet, in the right condition, with the right characteristics, this 1980 D quarter has become one of the most surprising modern treasures in U.S. coin collecting. The 1980 Washington quarter with the D mint mark was struck at the Denver Mint during a time when coin production was massive. America was deep into the clad coinage era. These quarters were made from a copper core with outer layers of nickel, weighing 5.67 grams. Billions of clad quarters had already circulated for over a decade. By 1980, most people no longer viewed quarters as collectible, especially not recent ones. That mindset is exactly why certain high-grade examples today are so valuable. The design remained the classic Washington quarter design introduced in 1932. On the obverse, you see George Washington facing left, designed by John Flanagan. The word Liberty arches above his head, In God We Trust appears to the left, and the date 1980 sits below. Just to the right of Washington's ponytail, you'll find the small but powerful D mint mark indicating the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. On the reverse, the heraldic eagle spreads its wings, clutching arrows and olive branches, with United States of America and $quarter surrounding the image. At first glance, nothing about the 1980 D Washington quarter looks rare. Over 518 million were struck in Denver that year. With a mintage that high, most people assume the coin is common and worth only 25 cents. And in circulated condition, that is usually true. But serious collectors know that mintage numbers alone do not determine value. Condition rarity changes everything. During 1980, the U.S. Mint was producing coins for circulation quickly and efficiently. Quality control was not focused on creating flawless collector pieces. Most 1980 D quarters entered circulation immediately and suffered contact marks, scratches, and wear. Very few were carefully preserved in pristine condition. That is where the opportunity lies. In the coin collecting world, grade is king. A heavily worn 1980 D quarter might be worth face value, but a mint state example with blazing luster, sharp strike, and minimal contact marks can command substantial premiums. When you reach the highest certified grades, coins with nearly perfect surfaces, scarcity increases dramatically. These ultra-high-grade examples are extremely difficult to find because most coins from 1980 were mishandled before anyone thought to save them. Collectors also examine strike quality. Many 1980 D quarters show weak details in Washington's hair or in the eagle's breast feathers. A sharply struck coin with crisp detail is more desirable. Luster, that bright, cartwheel shine that moves across the surface under light, is another critical factor. Full, undisturbed mint luster significantly increases desirability and value. But condition is only part of the story. Errors also exist within the 1980 D Washington quarter series. Mint errors occur when something goes wrong during the striking process. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, and die cracks can all appear on 1980 D quarters. These errors are rare compared to normal circulation coins, and collectors actively search for them. One particularly valuable type of error involves double dies. A double die happens during the die creation process when the design is impressed more than once in slightly different positions. This can create visible doubling on the date, lettering, or other design elements. Strong double die examples are highly collectible and can dramatically increase the value of a 1980 D quarter. Another factor that can increase value is original mint state preservation in rolls or bank-wrapped quantities. Some collectors stored original rolls of 1980 D quarters, but even in those rolls, finding coins that qualify for the absolute highest condition grades is extremely rare. Tiny marks, invisible to the naked eye, can prevent a coin from reaching the top tier. Here is something many people overlook. Modern coins can become rare over time because of survival rates, not just mintage numbers. While over 518 million 1980 D quarters were struck, the number of coins surviving in near-perfect condition is a tiny fraction of that total. Decades of circulation, damage, and melting of clad coins for scrap have reduced the pool of high-quality examples. If you are checking a 1980 D Washington quarter for value, start by examining the mint mark. Make sure the D is clear and not damaged. Look closely at Washington's cheek and jawline for marks. Inspect the fields, the flat surfaces, for scratches or contactings. Rotate the coin under a bright light to observe the luster. A coin with strong, uninterrupted cartwheel luster and minimal marks stands out immediately. Pay special attention to the reverse. The eagle's breast feathers should show sharp detail. Weakly struck coins are common, so bold feather definition increases desirability. Also check the rim. A strong, complete rim with no flattening suggests the coin was well struck and carefully preserved. Collectors across America still search through rolls of quarters from banks, hoping to find high-grade 1980 D examples. Because, unlike older silver coins, these quarters still circulate. They are still mixed into everyday change. That means the opportunity is real. The possibility of discovering a valuable 1980 D Washington quarter in circulation still exists. Another reason this coin is valuable is its place in the long Washington quarter series. Collectors building complete date and mint mark sets need the 1980 D. While it is not a low mintage key date, finding one in superb condition can be challenging. Registry set collectors compete fiercely for the finest known examples. That competition drives prices dramatically higher at auction. Over time, the coin market has shown that modern condition rarities can outperform expectations. Many collectors once ignored coins from the late 1970s and early 1980s. But as grading standards tightened and collectors sought the finest examples, certain modern quarters began achieving remarkable results. And here is the number that proves how serious the market can be. The highest price recorded at auction for a 1980 D Washington quarter-dollar coin reached an astonishing $172,000. From 25 cents to $172,000. That is why this coin is valuable. That is why you should never overlook a 1980 D Washington quarter. Check your pocket change, examine your coin jars, search bank rolls, because history has already shown that even a modern clad quarter with a small D mint mark can turn into a six-figure discovery when condition, rarity, and demand align perfectly. Coin number 3. Stop for a second and imagine this. You reach into your pocket, pull out a simple 1971 quarter with a tiny D mint mark, and instead of 25 cents, you're holding a coin that collectors would fight over. Not because it's made of silver, not because it's ancient, but because of condition, rarity at the highest levels, and the powerful demand surrounding the 1971 D Washington quarter-dollar coin. This is one of those modern coins that most Americans have seen, spent, and ignored. Yet, in the right state, it has become a serious prize in the coin collecting world. The 1971 Washington quarter with the D mint mark was struck at the Denver Mint during the clad coinage era. By 1971, the United States had fully transitioned away from 90% silver quarters. These coins were produced using a copper core bonded between outer layers of nickel, giving them a total weight of 5.67 grams. To the average person, it looked just like any other quarter in circulation. But for collectors, 1971 D represents something very important, a modern issue that becomes extremely scarce in top condition. The design remained the classic Washington quarter design introduced in 1932. On the obverse, George Washington faces left, with liberty above his head. In God we trust to the left, and the date 1971 below. Just to the right of Washington's ponytail sits the small but critical D mint mark, identifying Denver as the mint of origin. On the reverse, the powerful heraldic eagle spreads its wings, clutching arrows and olive branches, symbolizing strength and peace. United States of America and quarter dollar frame the design, along with E pluribus unum above the eagle. In 1971, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of quarters. The mintage exceeded 258 million coins. That number sounds massive, and it is. So, why would a coin with such a high mintage ever be considered valuable? The answer lies in survival rates and condition rarity. During the early 1970s, quarters were workhorse coins. They were heavily used in vending machines, arcades, public transportation, and everyday transactions across America. Most 1971 D quarters went straight into circulation and stayed there for years. They picked up scratches, nicks, dents, and wear almost immediately. Very few people thought to save pristine examples at the time because there was no silver content and no obvious rarity. Fast forward decades later, and collectors discovered something surprising. While millions were minted, very few survived in superb, high-end mint state grades. Finding a 1971 D Washington quarter with blazing original luster, sharp strike detail, and nearly flawless surfaces is extremely difficult. That's where the value begins to climb. When evaluating a 1971 D quarter, collectors first look at condition. Is it circulated or uncirculated? A circulated coin with visible wear on Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers is generally worth face value. But an uncirculated example, especially one preserved carefully since 1971, can carry a premium. And at the very highest certified grades, prices can escalate dramatically. Strike quality is another key factor. Many 1971 D quarters were not struck with exceptional sharpness. Weak detail in Washington's hair above the ear and flatness in the eagle's breast feathers are common. A sharply struck example with crisp lines and strong feather definition stands out instantly to experienced collectors. Luster is equally important. A true mint state 1971 D quarter should display vibrant cartwheel luster that moves smoothly across the surface when tilted under light. Dull or broken luster often indicates wear or improper storage. Coins with full, original mint bloom are far more desirable. The 1971 D Washington quarter also has known error varieties that increase value. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, and double die varieties can all appear. A strong double die, where letters or numbers show visible doubling, can attract serious collector attention. Error coins are typically far rarer than normal circulation pieces, and demand for dramatic errors remains strong in the marketplace. Another aspect that drives value is registry set competition. Advanced collectors compete to assemble the finest possible sets of Washington quarters. They want the highest graded example of each date and mint mark combination. Because so few 1971 D quarters survive in near-perfect condition, competition for top-tier examples becomes intense. When two determined collectors want the same coin, auction prices can rise far beyond expectations. What makes this even more exciting is that 1971 D quarters are still in circulation today. Unlike older silver issues that were pulled from circulation decades ago, these clad quarters remain mixed into everyday pocket change. That means the opportunity to find a valuable example still exists. Checking bank rolls, coin jars, and inherited collections can sometimes uncover surprising treasures. When inspecting a 1971 D Washington quarter, carefully examine Washington's cheek and jawline for heavy contact marks. Look at the fields, the smooth background areas for scratches or blemishes. Rotate the coin under bright light to assess luster quality. Check the reverse for strong feather detail and a clean rim. Small differences in preservation can mean enormous differences in value. Over time, collectors have come to appreciate modern condition rarities more than ever. The idea that only old silver coins are valuable has been proven wrong repeatedly. Modern clad coins, when preserved in exceptional condition, can become far rarer than their mintage numbers suggest. The 1971 D Washington quarter is a perfect example of that principle. Market demand for high-grade Washington quarters has grown steadily as more collectors build complete sets. As populations of top-graded coins remain extremely low, prices for the finest known examples continue to reflect their scarcity. This is why understanding condition is so important. A coin that looks ordinary at first glance could be extraordinary if it meets strict grading standards. And here is the number that truly captures attention. The highest price recorded at auction for 1971 D Washington $quarter coin reached an astonishing $196,000. From just 25 cents to $196,000. That is why the 1971 Washington quarter with the D mint mark is valuable. That is why you should never dismiss a modern quarter as common. Examine your coins carefully. Study the details, because even a clad quarter from 1971, struck in Denver and overlooked for decades, has already proven it can transform ordinary pocket change into a six-figure treasure. Coin number 4. Before you spend your next quarter, stop and look at the date. If it says 1985, and if there's a small P mint mark on the front, you could be holding one of the most underestimated modern coins in American history. Not a silver relic, not a century-old rarity. A 1985 P. Washington $quarter coin, a coin millions of Americans used for soda machines, parking meters, and grocery stores. Yet, in the right condition, it has shocked the collecting world. The 1985 Washington quarter with the P mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. By this time, the United States had long transitioned away from silver coinage. These quarters were produced in copper-nickel clad composition, weighing 5.67 grams, with a pure copper core sandwiched between outer nickel layers. To most people, this coin represents nothing special, but in the world of coin collecting, the 1985 P quarter has proven that modern coins can become incredibly valuable when condition rarity meets demand. On the obverse, you see the familiar portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. Liberty arches boldly above his head. In God, we trust appears to the left. The date 1985 is centered below, and for the first time in history, Philadelphia quarters prominently carried the P mint mark. That detail is important. Prior to 1980, Philadelphia quarters did not include a mint mark. By 1985, the P was standard, but it also makes this coin clearly identifiable. Flip the coin over, and the reverse displays the classic heraldic eagle with wings spread wide. The eagle clutches arrows and olive branches, symbolizing America's readiness for both defense and peace. United States of America and $quarter surround the design, along with E pluribus unum above the eagle. In 1985, the Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of quarters. With such a high mintage, most people assume the coin must be common and worth only face value. And in circulated condition, that is usually correct. A worn 1985 P quarter found in pocket change is typically worth 25 cents. But this is where serious collectors understand something deeper. Mintage does not equal survival in top condition. The mid-1980s were not an era when people carefully saved rolls of quarters in anticipation of future value. These coins were workhorses. They entered circulation immediately and stayed there for years. They were stacked, dropped, scraped, and tossed into jars. The vast majority developed contact marks and wear very quickly. That means truly pristine examples are far scarcer than the original mintage suggests. Condition is everything when it comes to the 1985 P. Washington quarter. In lower mint state grades, modest premiums may apply. But as the grade climbs toward the highest certified levels, coins with blazing luster, razor-sharp strike detail, and virtually flawless surfaces, the number of surviving examples drops dramatically. Registry collectors competing for the finest known coins drive demand even higher. When examining a 1985 P quarter, begin with luster. Tilt the coin under a bright light, and look for strong cartwheel shine moving smoothly across the surface. A coin that appears dull or lifeless may have been cleaned or lightly circulated. Original mint luster is critical for premium value. Next, inspect Washington's cheek and jawline. These areas often show the first signs of contact marks. Even tiny nicks can lower a coin's grade. On the reverse, Study the eagle's breast feathers. Many 1985 P quarters show average strike quality. A sharply struck coin with crisp feather detail is far more desirable. The rim should be strong and complete with no flattening. The fields, the flat background surfaces, should appear clean and free from heavy abrasions. The difference between an average uncirculated coin and a near-perfect example may be invisible to the untrained eye, yet in the marketplace it can mean tens of thousands of dollars. Error varieties also add to the value potential of a 1985 P. Washington quarter. Off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and die cracks have all been documented. Double die varieties, where letters or numbers show noticeable doubling due to die misalignment, are particularly collectible. Dramatic errors are far rarer than standard issues and often command strong premiums. Another factor that makes the 1985 P quarter valuable is long-term collector demand. The Washington Quarter Series is one of the most widely collected coin series in the United States. Millions of collectors build date and mint mark sets. As more collectors compete for top-graded coins, the finest examples become increasingly valuable. Modern coins like the 1985 P are sometimes called condition rarities. While millions were struck, very few survive in ultra-high grades. That scarcity at the top drives auction excitement. When two determined collectors compete for the finest known example, prices can reach levels that surprise even experienced numismatists. And here is something that makes this story even more exciting. 1985 P quarters are still found in circulation today. They still appear in bankrolls, cash registers, and coin jars across America. Unlike older silver coins that disappeared decades ago, these quarters remain accessible. That means anyone can search for them. Anyone can examine their change. Anyone could potentially discover a high-grade survivor. If you find a 1985 P. Washington quarter that appears uncirculated, store it carefully. Avoid touching the surfaces directly. Place it in a protective holder. Even minor handling can reduce its grade. Preservation is essential when dealing with modern coins that depend heavily on condition for value. Over the past several years, the market has proven that modern quarters can achieve astonishing results when they combine top condition, low certified populations, and strong collector demand. The 1985 P. Washington quarter has already demonstrated this reality in dramatic fashion. The highest price recorded at auction for a 1985 P. Washington $quarter coin reached an incredible $150,000. From a simple 25-cent coin to $150,000. That is why this coin is valuable. That is why the 1985 P. Washington quarter deserves your attention. Check the date. Look for the P mint mark. Study the condition carefully, because even a modern clad quarter from 1985 has already proven that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary pocket change. Coin number 5. Do not underestimate this coin. The 1974 Washington quarter with the small d mint mark looks ordinary, feels ordinary, and spends like any other 25-cent piece. But what if I told you that one example of this exact coin shocked the market and proved that modern pocket change can reach staggering levels of value? This is not hype. This is the reality of condition rarity, mint errors, and collector demand colliding in one overlooked year. 1974D. The 1974 Washington $quarter coin with the D mint mark was struck at the Denver Mint during the clad era of U.S. coinage. By this point, silver quarters were already a thing of the past. Since 1965, quarters had been struck using a copper core bonded between two outer layers of nickel. The total weight is 5.67 grams, and along the edge you can clearly see the copper stripe that identifies it as a clad coin. Because it contains no silver, most people never thought to save them. That assumption is exactly what makes certain examples so valuable today. On the obverse, the coin features the iconic left-facing portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. Liberty stretches boldly across the top. In God We Trust appears to the left of Washington's profile. The date 1974 sits below, and just to the right of Washington's ponytail is the small but powerful demint mark, confirming it was struck in Denver. The reverse shows the heraldic eagle with wings spread wide, clutching arrows and olive branches, with United States of America above and $quarter below. In 1974, the Denver Mint struck more than 350 million quarters. On the surface, that number makes the coin seem common. And in circulated grades, it is common. A worn 1974 D-quarter found in everyday change is generally worth face value. But here is where serious collectors understand something deeper. Mintage does not equal rarity in high grade. The mid-1970s were not years when people carefully preserved rolls of clad quarters for the future. These coins were heavily used in daily commerce. They were handled, constantly stored loosely, and rarely protected. As a result, most surviving examples show noticeable contact, marks, weak strikes, or surface abrasions. When you start searching for 1974 D. Washington quarter in truly exceptional condition, coins with blazing original mint luster, sharp strike detail, and virtually flawless surfaces, the number of surviving examples drops dramatically. That scarcity in the highest mint state grades is what drives serious value. Condition is everything with this coin. A typical circulated piece with wear on Washington's hair and flattened details on the eagle is worth 25 cents. But an uncirculated coin with full cartwheel luster, clean fields, and minimal marks can command a premium. As the grade increases to the very top certified levels, prices can rise exponentially due to registry set competition. Collectors building high-end Washington quarter sets compete for the finest known examples of each date and mint mark. When population reports show only a tiny number of coins at the highest grade levels, demand intensifies. 2. Determined collectors competing for one top-quality 1974 D-quarter can push auction prices to extraordinary heights. Strike quality is another major factor for the 1974 D-quarter. Many examples from this year show weakness in Washington's hair above the ear and in the eagle's breast feathers. A sharply struck coin with crisp, well-defined detail is far more desirable. Strong rims, clear lettering, and balanced surfaces all contribute to higher value. Luster is equally important. Original mint luster should appear vibrant and consistent across both sides of the coin. When tilted under light, the surface should display a smooth cartwheel effect. Dull or lifeless surfaces may indicate wear or improper cleaning, both of which significantly reduce value. Air varieties also add excitement to the 1974 D. Washington quarter series. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, and die cracks have been documented. Double die varieties, where the lettering or date shows visible doubling, are especially collectible. Dramatic errors are much scarcer than regular circulation strikes and can bring substantial premiums depending on severity and condition. Another reason the 1974 D-quarter is valuable is its position within the long-running Washington quarter series. This series is one of the most widely collected in American numismatics. With millions of collectors building sets, even common-date coins become valuable in elite grades. The demand never fully disappears, especially for coins certified at the highest levels. What makes this even more exciting is that 1974 D-quarters are still circulating today. They still appear in bank rolls, cash drawers, and old coin jars across America. Unlike pre-1965 silver quarters that were largely removed from circulation decades ago, these clad coins remain accessible. That means the opportunity to find a valuable example is still alive. If you want to check a 1974 D. Washington quarter for potential value, start by examining the mint mark to ensure it is clear and undamaged. Inspect Washington's cheek and jawline for heavy contact marks. Look closely at the fields for scratches or dullness. Study the reverse eagle for sharp feather detail. Rotate the coin under bright light to evaluate luster. Small differences in preservation can mean enormous differences in price. Modern condition rarities have surprised the coin market again and again. Collectors once ignored coins from the 1970s because they lacked silver. But over time, the focus shifted toward top-grade survivors. As more collectors compete for the finest possible examples, prices for ultra-high-grade coins have reached levels few expected decades ago. The 1974 D. Washington quarter has already proven that even a clad quarter from the 1970s can become a serious prize. In fact, the highest price recorded at auction for 1974 D. Washington quarter-dollar coin reached an astonishing $169,000. From a simple 25-cent coin to $169,000. That is why this coin is valuable. That is why you should carefully check every 1974 quarter with a D mint mark that passes through your hands. Examine the condition. Look for errors. Protect high-quality examples. Because history has already shown that this ordinary-looking quarter can transform from everyday pocket change into a six-figure treasure. And now think about what you've just learned. A 1965 quarter, a 1971, D, a 1974, a 1980 to 1985, P coins most people wouldn't even glance at twice, have already proven that modern Washington quarters can sell for six figures. Not because they're gold, not because they're ancient, but because of condition, rarity, mint errors, and collector demand. That means the next life-changing coin is not locked inside a museum. It could be sitting in your pocket. It could be hiding in your coin jar. It could be inside a bank roll you haven't searched yet. This is why smart collectors never ignore dates. They never ignore mint marks. And they never assume a clad quarter is just 25 cents. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary often comes down to one small detail. A sharper strike, cleaner surfaces, or a rare mint mistake that almost no one else noticed. And if you think Washington quarters are surprising, wait until you see what's happening in the world of Eisenhower dollar coins. Some of those big dollar coins have shocked the market in ways that will completely change how you look at your collection. After this video, make sure you watch my detailed breakdown on Eisenhower dollar coins. You do not want to miss those hidden value secrets. If you're serious about finding valuable coins, building wealth through coin collecting, and discovering what others overlook, then subscribe to Coins Most Valuable right now. Turn on notifications so you never miss a rare coin alert. If this video opened your eyes, hit the like button so more collectors can discover these hidden treasures. Share this video with friends and family, especially anyone who keeps jars of old change. And most importantly, comment below and tell me, have you ever found a valuable Washington quarter in your pocket change? Because remember, history has already proven it only takes one coin to change everything.